Jen is the founder and executive director of Code for America, which is really one of the most awesome projects in the government technology space. Before that, she led the game group and she ran the Web 2.0 and Gov 2.0 conferences for O'Reilly. So I'm going to turn it over to Jen.
Thanks so much, really appreciate it. Has anybody here heard of Code for America? Know anything about it? Fantastic. I'm going to go over it very briefly, like 60 seconds. So basically, you can think of us as Teach for America or the Peace Corps, but for geeks. So what do? We're trying to bring approaches from the startup tech world into government. How do we do that? We recruit cities. This year we're working with 4, Boston, Philadelphia, Seattle, and DC. We had an open call for them to participate. We chose them from a bunch who applied. We asked the cities to tell us what these geeks could do for them that would make their city more participatory, more efficient, more open and transparent, engage their citizens better, and also what could be reused by other cities when it's done. Then we recruit fellows, and one of our fellows is here. Yes, Eric is my friend. Eric Michael's over. So we have 20 fantastic fellows, also came through a very competitive application process. About 2/3 of them are developers. They're from all over the country, and one from Italy. And they're just amazing, wonderful people, and I'm so lucky to get to work with them every day. Then we have a sort of very structured program that we put them through. The idea is that they're learning. If I shout, can you hear me? Yes. I'm not going to shouting, but I'll do it. So we put them through a very structured program where they develop big projects and small projects. Did I turn it off? Can you hear me now? Oh, God. Sorry. I'm going to move that down. So they work on big projects, they work on small projects, and the key thing is to get the geeks and the bureaucrats working together. Our fellowship program for 2012 is actually now open. Tim O'Reilly announced it on the main stage yesterday with Jason Kalfanis. So I titled this How to Fix Government. I don't really know how to fix government. I wish somebody really did. But I'm going to give you just some of the thoughts from the first year of working on Code for America that I hope can be helpful. The first thing I want to talk about is the government needs to stop reinventing the wheel. I'll tell you a story about a $40 million procurement. There's a guy named Sumit Agarwal. He's the Deputy Defense Secretary, Jake, help me out, at the DOD, who came to us, told us a story about being in a meeting about getting veterans jobs. And the idea there was that they were going to build a new jobs database to get veterans new jobs, and had a $40 million set aside for this. So the way Sumit described it to us, it was like being in a meeting about getting soldiers from New York to DC and talking about what gauge rail you were going to lay, where you're going to source the iron, how far the ties should be apart, instead of just buying them some Amtrak tickets. There are already jobs databases out there. There are plenty of them. The jobs are actually in them. There's no need to reinvent the wheel there. And I'm happy to say, I think that procurement is not happening, and they're taking a slightly more reasonable approach to it. So we need to start leveraging the commercial platforms that are out there, but we also need to stop rebuilding the systems that run our cities and our federal agencies over and over again. Last year, a guy named Chris Behan, who is now the Deputy CIO at the White House, but at the time was the CIO of San Francisco, came to us. He had just spent several $1 million building something called an enterprise addressing system. This is something pretty much any city needs. It takes care of property addresses. And he knew that if there were 10,000 other municipalities in the country, that others were doing the same thing at the same time. Why should they spend taxpayer money putting out an RFP, finding vendors, making those mistakes, all of that, when it's already been done there? So he gave us that software essentially, and through our project called Civic Commons, which is what it sounds like. It's a commons of civic software. It's now available to other agencies that want to use it. And there's a bunch of more of those coming online. We have another announcement of another project like that that'll be available through the Commons soon. And we think this can easily, in the next couple of years, save the government millions, but maybe even billions of dollars from software reuse. The second thing I want to talk about is making data useful for people inside government. So we're really obsessed with the idea of get governments to open their data, and I think that's really good. We should be doing that. But that's just not always practical in sort of an outside-in way. So in a city like Boston, they have an open data initiative, and they're actually incredibly innovative there, but even there, not everything is available. So Eric's going to correct me if I get this story wrong. But our Boston team was working on a project there that's focused on student, and it needed student transit data for the project. The powers that be, for whatever reason, weren't quite comfortable giving it to the team. But in the course of the 100 interviews that our fellows do when they're in the cities, they're really listening for those pain points in the city. And one that they heard is that when it snows really badly, the school buses get slowed down, and the Boston Public School call center gets slammed with thousands of phone calls from parents saying, "Where's my kids?" I'm a parent, I think I'd call too if my kids weren't home. So they offered to write an app that would track the school buses in real time and let the parents check through their iPhones or whatever, and I have a picture of it, yes, that would let the parents check where their kids were on the bus and reduce the call volume to the schools. Our schools have other things to do. Let's let them take care of teaching our kids. Suddenly, when they offered you this, the data was available. So you have to find a way to make the system work for you in order to get what you need done. I want to talk briefly also about this idea of, you've heard of government as a platform. You may be asking yourself, a platform for what? Well, there's a lot of answers to that, but one is that it's a platform for coordinating what citizens can do to fill in the gaps where government can no longer provide the services. Another example from our Boston team, in fact, this is Eric's project. He's sitting in the second row here. When it snows in Boston, they're really busy trying to clear the streets. Well, guess what happens? All the fire hydrants get covered with snow. And that's sort of a second priority. But in the meantime, if there's a fire, you're not going to be able to get it. You're not going to be able to get to that fire hydrant. So Eric wrote in something like a day, adopt a fire hydrant to allow citizens to say, yep, when I'm shoveling the snow out in front of my house, I'm also going to take care of the fire hydrant. Let the city know that, and then they know where to prioritize the hydrants that aren't getting dug out. So this is a really, a quick app. Another one that we didn't do, but we may be involved in sort of spreading, is this great thing that came out of San Ramon. This is an app that lets you tell the city if you have CPR training, and then connects you when a 911 call comes in. If someone's having a heart attack, they'll let you know. Next door, someone's having a heart attack, can you come help? As response times from ambulances get longer, this is the kind of thing, exactly the kind of thing we need to fill in those gaps. This is really going to save lives. It's amazing. We want to see this in every city, not just in San Ramon. So I think the most important thing that we could do is to try to make bureaucracy sexy. So we're obsessed with politics in this country. Politicians can't do that much, right? And the stuff that politicians do when they pass laws they're often subject to this Uber law, the law of unintended consequences, and it doesn't always work out the way we hoped. So what we need to do is recognize that bureaucrats have the real power. Another quote from Chris Vane, who's now in the White House: you have to understand your bureaucracy to use it against yourself. If we can get attention paid to bureaucracy and the understanding of how much power is there, then my hope is we can get smart, passionate, mission-driven people to take those jobs, and that's really what's going to change our country. So today I am rolling out our new ad campaign. We're big on reuse at Code for America, so I just borrowed ad campaigns I know already work. Got bureaucracy? Where's the bureaucracy? Where's the bureaucracy? Be all you can be, and that's bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is forever. And a nod to Purdue. It takes a tough man to make a tender bureaucracy. So my hope is that we can sort of spread this meme that bureaucracy is cool and sexy. My last 2 points are really about demographics. Many people don't realize that there was sort of a boom in government in the 70s. At the time, you had a lot of people, young people coming in, and you had a very young workforce. 70% of local government employees were under 40 in the 1970s. They mostly stayed, and so what it looked like in 2006 was you have only 13% of local government employees under 40. Moreover, this is for the city of San Francisco, sorry, this isn't national data. 60% of local government employees are eligible to retire in the next 4 years. So it's going to go from looking like this to that. So who's going to take those jobs? Well, I hope you know by now that one of the things I'm hoping is that this community takes some of those jobs, because we need you in them. But the other honest answer is that a lot of those jobs aren't going to be refilled, and you're going to go from larger teams to much smaller teams. And if that's true, then we need a new model for government work. And at the IT level, I think it looks something like a very networked modern worker. So instead of a large team of, say, 10 trying to do a lot of things, it's going to be a smaller team that's going to be doing the same amount, but to be focused on building platforms, evangelizing those platforms, and working with a community outside. So in IT, it's going to be looking like civic hackers supporting your internal IT workers. And they need a large community to help them do this. The other part of demographics that I think is important here is about how we think about government. So we have this story that we tell ourselves that each successive generation is more and more cynical about government. And that's actually true. Right now they're saying that levels of distrust and cynicism about government are at or near 15-year highs. But this is for the population at large. If you break it down by age groups, there's a real surprise in here. Turns out that millennials are actually the most pro-government generation in decades. So why is this? I don't really know. And they talk a lot in this CAP study about various drivers for it. But my theory is that millennials have really grown up with the web as we know it. So things like collective action, collective intelligence, getting a lot of good ideas out and bubbling the right ones to the top. These are things that are basically solve problems on the internet. So it's not that millennials think that government works now, it's that they think it could work if it were recrafted in their image. So I'm not suggesting that millennials are going to save us, or that if you're over 32, you don't have a role in this. I'm 41, I hope I'm part of the solution. But I do think that millennials are telling us something. They're telling us that government can work, and that it's worth saving. So that's my message. Thank you very much.